I'm just,
upsets me that you
I'm
don't
on
watch
Moana right now. They're like, you think of them just again leaving
Like this,
It's like, I'm
I was-
naturally doing this. Welcome to the Three Fates podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Deanne.
I'm Pam.
And I'm Meredith.
Welcome to a new location.
Yeah.
Pam, you want to share this special location that we're at today?
Well, we're at my house, which is pretty cool.
That has air conditioning.
And yes, we usually record at Meredith's place. That was weird. I couldn't say her name properly.
It's okay. It was weird.
That was really weird. Anyways, there's no AC at your place. So
No.
we're like, let's beat the heat. Come here. It's like 40 degrees almost outside.
Yeah,
Celsius.
It's hot. Yeah.
So we're here, and I actually love hosting. I host a lot of events in this space. I have a lot of couches and places for people to sit. I'm here by myself, just because I love hosting, and I do Wild-N-Wise gatherings here. And just at I guess it was more of a social gathering, but we were here right on this couch.
Yeah.
You guys were right on this couch when the Three Fates actually got birthed.
Did we actually meet here though? Like
Yeah.
When I met you though, was it here? Because I had
Yeah.
met you before.
Yeah, you
Was
met
it here?
right-
At
yeah,
a
you met her
Wild-N-Wise.
here, right in this room.
Oh, and then when we came back for that barbecue you had or whatever it was, or your it was like a birthday /
Potluck.
barbecue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
You're like potluck. It was secretly her birthday.
It was.
That's okay. And then Mare came out that night, and that's when Meredith and I were just like, "Who are we together?" Because we literally sat right here. I was here, she was here, and we were just doing what we do best, which was reading people.
Yeah. It felt
We didn't
extremely
lose the
natural.
cut.
We'd never read anybody before, but I was
Yeah.
sitting there next to Dee and we were reading some people and I was like, this feels real
Really
easy.
good. Yeah.
This feels really natural. This feels like something. And it felt really fun. And immediately I got like the old crone kind of vibe of being like, we've done this before and this feels part of a plan. And so Pam was being a hostess extraordinaire and I and Dee were literally stuck on this couch being the worst guests.
Yeah.
We were not meeting, mingling, or socializing with anyone. We were just having a little love affair,
Yeah. It
reading
was good. I got
whoever
to
was
know
coming
you.
in front of. Yes, yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I just watched you guys. I was like, "What's happening in that corner?" I'm not gonna interrupt. I'm not gonna go there and check it out. I'm just gonna let them just be and
All
not
good
even worry
things
about
happen
it.
in the corner. Yeah.
That's right. All the good things
true.
happen in the corner.
Nobody
I,
puts baby on the
I
corner.
remember
No.
I read for you a little bit, Dee. I was just like, something's
Oh,
coming
yeah.
through. This is really awkward. But
My life
and
changed after that.
Bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
Massively. Yeah. Big. It's like I could feel that something needed to be unearthed, but I was like struggling to find the access within myself, probably because I was like scared, to see it or whatever. And then you were like, you went into the eyes and I was like, oh, like she means business, like she's serious. And like, I just knew that it was a truth, like so deep, like it hit me deep, like water goes deep, like it just hit me. And I was like, oh, okay. And then everything kind of started to spiral in a good way and unearth and process, and a lot of love held. So it was really safe. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. And then out of that came,
This.
there's
Yeah.
that. And then I said, Pam, I think, when we were at the gym, our other,
Yeah.
and I was like, Pam, I think we should do a podcast with Dee.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know. Dee's not really into doing group stuff. And
a
then
loner.
we literally had coffee with Dee that same morning, and we're like, Dee, what do you think? She's like, I'm in.
Yeah. It was so immediate. And I'm usually not. Like, I'm usually like I want to be by myself. I'm going to be a loner. I do most of my business by myself, all that. But it was like, if I was going to do something with other people, these are the people I would want to do it with, right? Like, it was just, very comfortable. Hell yes. So
Yeah, here we are now.
here we are.
Celebrating our 13th episode.
I was going to say, like,
Whoa.
13th anniversary. I was like,
I
wow,
love.
13th.
I was
I've
like,
been
tell me what
really
13 means.
Have I told you about 13?
Yeah, but I want to hear
what
about
is
it
13?
again. Let's talk about 13.
Man, I went to Egypt last October, and when I was there, I was really working on this download I was getting about the number 13, and like this message is, of course, as we know, like there's 13 months in the year, so naturally our calendar probably is more comfortably 13 months versus 12 because we're like 4.5
13
weeks.
moons, you mean?
13 moons.
Moons, okay.
Right, sorry, 13 moons per year.
Yeah.
And so you would think like each moon should be 1 month, 28 days, right?
Yeah.
But we have like these awkward 30 days or 31 days or 28 days kind of weird
Thanks,
system.
Gregorian
I know, right?
Men.
And so it's kind of like that's a system, and it's not a natural part of what maybe nature is intending for us, and it feels like nature is kind of more intended for like the number 13. And I was like, well, if there's 13 moons in a year, all the other places where I use a system of 12, maybe there's a 13 there.
You're like, this system is outdated.
Yeah. So this is interesting that this is coming in 13th episode, because for me, 13 is a kind of like a completion, or like an energy that kind of rounds things a little bit. As in, when I tuned into 13 chakras, because I usually before that was using the system of 12 chakras, I was like, well, I was channeling. I was like, where's the 13th chakra then? Because the 12th chakra is the causal body. And then the guides showed me that the humanity has like a shared chakra, one chakra for all of us that we share, and that's the 13th chakra. And I was like, oh, I work on the system of 12 DNA strands. Where's the 13th DNA strand? And then I just kind of asked and saw it that it weaved through all of them, almost like it knit everything together. Like, and then I was like, it's all about nature, knitting it together and bringing that nature frequency in. And I was like, where's the 13th cranial nerve?
Where is it all?
Where is it all? And then I was like, show me that. I'm like, there must be that, because I use the 12 cranial nerves all the time too. And then I was like, oh, I was almost imagining like that was showing me that it was actually invested in the brainstem. So if you were to be a really careful person with really good dissection skills, you could probably discern a different type of nerve bundle within it if you were being that mindful. So I think that's where that 13th nerve is. And here we are on the 13th episode.
I'm just burping already.
And
shifting something.
Yeah. I'm so like
Can't make this shit up.
Oh, we were talking about before the podcast started. Whoa. Of
Here she goes.
time.
Yeah.
And this is what you're waiting for?
Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, we were chatting, and like the clock in this room is frozen right now. There's the battery's dead or something. And we're like, oh, I wonder if there's going to be like a time theme. And I was like, yeah, frozen time. And when I was channeling into the 13, the thing that really got me, it was something in a book, and it was saying where Earth is on the system of 12, but the 13th will come of nature when we get to a place of no time. Then we can come in and invite the 13. We'll be out of the system.
So like clocks will be invalid.
I don't even want to put a battery in that clock, and it's been like that for ages. I'm like, I don't even care.
Yeah.
Because we're in a place of no time, and therefore we can be in the nature of 13.
When time stands still.
When time stands still, then we can actually be...
Or
yeah.
when time jumps.
Or when time jumps.
Oh.
Yeah, so here we go. Number 13th episode.
Yep.
1-3.
So maybe let's dive into time.
Time and,
All aspects of time, how it's viewed as linear, but could it also be parallel? With other time.
So we think parallel lives versus past lives, future lives. And so if we're going to lean into the number 13 and kind of go, okay, we're going to be and kind of play with this place of no time, then, how do we conceptualize places of parallel versus past and future? So in your guys' like history of understanding like incarnation, what was your belief systems when you first were like little? That was like reincarnation a pretty foreign concept for both of you? Was it something you had to learn more in adulthood? Like what was your journey of like even thinking about multiple lives?
I don't think I could conceptualize, or I didn't have the verbiage to say that like I was this or I reincarnated. Like it wasn't in my vocabulary, but looking back, I know I had distinct thoughts about being somebody different and like memories but thinking it was still mine. So I couldn't really understand it. And we grew up in I would say more of a Christian-based household where that's not really the belief system of reincarnation, but it's not like my parents, like it wasn't Christian to the point where that was the only way to believe. There was so much flexibility and freedom to discover who we were spiritually or what our beliefs were. But it was like way later when I was like trying that on for size, and I was like, I just know that that's correct. I couldn't, it's like when I learned about reincarnation, when I learned about other lifetimes or that possibility, I was like, of course. Even though I grew up I remember sitting in church and they'd be like, "Okay, Deanne, you know, like time to go to like Sunday school." And I was like, I got to see what this guy's got to say. Right. And I was looking at him like, there's so much missing. And I'm like a young kid. So why do I know that? I'm not indoctrined really at home. I'm just like, here's a potential to learn something. And I was like, there's something missing here. There's more, like we're only seeing a chunk of it in our current lifetime, but there's so much missing. And so I think just I had to find it myself, but it was like immediate. I was like, of course we're that way. It didn't, and it never conflicted with how I grew up or religious pieces. Like it didn't, like when I learned about reincarnation and then like a Christianity belief system, it didn't feel competing. It just was like, of course that's right. It's a missing part of some of religion, possibly. Not all, but possibly some. So that was my experience with it. What about yours, Mare? Or Pam?
Pam. Your reincarnation.
Yeah, that's the belief system that I grew up with. That was very normal. Mm-hmm. I like heaven and hell concepts, like one life concept, was never a part of my teaching in this lifetime. I can definitely tune into many past lives or future lives, parallel lives, whatever they are, on that belief system somewhere in my system, but not in this body. This body, in this system that I was born into for our belief systems in my family has always been like no heaven, no hell. You just come back again.
Continuation.
Yeah.
Is time as a construct continual there then, like in a linear sense, in the idea of reincarnation?
No, I can't confirm that fully because I haven't studied it so deeply, but in my understanding of how they kind of spoke about it, just in my loose understanding, yes, it seems like it was kind of taught in a linear way.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like my understanding. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Like if I go deep into the actual teachings, I don't know, but
Sure.
I was very much like it's linear. And it was even interesting because with body talk training, they kind of talk about concept of past lives a little bit differently than we.
Yeah, I struggled with that
I'll struggle with that one too.
Yeah.
We can talk about that in a minute, but I want to know.
Mine's very similar
Yeah.
to Deanne's, except I didn't ever have thoughts that something was missing. I was raised in a Catholic household, so there's like the value-based behavior system, heaven and hell existed. I don't ever remember super investing in that belief of it always never felt quite right. But I was more digging the shame vibe, you know, like behavioral sort of manipulation in that one. But I remember when I first heard of the concept of reincarnation, I was probably in my late teens or early 20s, like to actually really think about it, and it just made sense. I was like, yeah, that tracks. That makes sense to me. And I don't actually have any conscious memory of really spending a lot of time thinking about it, really. And then, you know, from the last 5 years ago, I was like, obviously, okay.
Yeah.
Like
That
different
makes
lifetimes
sense.
and things.
Yeah.
And so it's been kind of fun exploring that. I remember being really excited about past lives a little bit in the beginning when I started to do some of this work. Since then, I find it interesting. I don't have an agenda around it in the sense of like when it pops up, I always find it fascinating to be like, oh, cool, like I did that or that's happening. Or there's only been a few times where like the parallel life, past life really kind of had a hold on me, I guess, in this lifetime. But I think that it can be super valuable and wildly healing to explore different aspects of self. So I'm, curious.
I'm getting over a cold over here, so this might be a little bit of a common theme. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah. There is like this other concept too, which is like we got learned in body talk, and I do understand this, and I am leaning into this one as well, where it's not so much like a linear, like your soul is doing like a linear thing, and you just get to be in your little pocket of soul for some time until you're done and go back to the oneness. It's like you're already in the oneness between every lifetime, and you all karma, unfinished business is all put into this grand ocean, and then every lifetime you just basically get ladled out as a little soul poured into a body, and then whatever past life stories you have or karmic situations that you were dealt is just because that's what was part of your ladle. And it's not personal.
I think I need like a cough drop. or we're clearing something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. It just keeps catching like deep, like in here, because it's like that's kind of where the cold has been.
Yeah.
So I think when I'm using my voice too, it just like gets a little dry.
I can find you a cough drop.
What's that?
I can go find you a cough
Okay,
drop.
well, let's see if we can get that. I'm going to keep drinking water. So this might be a fun episode to watch, everybody. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Cool. Where do you want to go from here?
I wanted to add one thing. I was listening through my coughing fit. Is that it took me a little bit, though, to come out of the linear thinking of reincarnation. And linear reincarnation to me would be like I lived in the 18th century or hundreds of years ago, and then now I'm here. It took me a while to. I think I'm probably understood the concept of quantum time, but I think I'm starting to really, in the last probably like 4 or 5 years, like more like embody quantum time. And so to me, the element of quantum time, would say like just place it into reincarnation would be like that I exist in every moment of every lifetime currently.
Yes.
Like
Is
it's
that
almost
what quantum time is? Is that like a definite? Can we just talk about like what is
I
quantum
would say
time?
like how I would define it is like the collapsing of like maybe even past, present, and future, right? So you're looking at not really able to describe with the way we describe linear time. Like it might not even like what we view as present. What if it actually is in the future? But it's all so you can't really place a term. You're just literally in the term of quantum time, which is all time exists in one collapsible like frequency or moment. So a lifetime that say I did have in the 18th century is still could be still concurrently unfolding in my current time now, right? It's like so, and that's why, you know, when we talk about even just karma coming out, we feel past karma in a past life come out now because it's unfolding like the time is now rather than prior.
Can I tell you a story about that?
Yeah.
A time travel story that I have for myself.
Yeah.
So cool. This blew my own mind. It was such a wild thing.
Blew my mind. I love that though, because it's like you can know so much information, but then when you have the experience,
Yeah.
you're just like, whoa, did you guys know?
Literally, because it
Yeah.
was. This is when I embodied this understanding. Because I was like, oh yes, it's a concept. It's a concept, and then I lived it, and it was just last year, and we were. I remember the time we were actually back in recording episodes of the podcast in the library. Just
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
we were just
It happened then?
It happened then. So just
Wow.
like not in that. I'll tell you. You just stay tuned.
Sorry.
And we were recording a podcast episode that we never actually aired because we were just kind of rehearsing and see how we were flowing. And we were tuning into my throat chakra. So I was getting ready for a speaking gig. And Meredith had said to me, or Dean, I can't remember who it was, said, tune into yes, it was Mare, tune into, go back to where you used to play. Like your little girl wants to go back to where you used to play. And I was like, well, that could mean many things. I've played in lots of places. And as soon as I really thought about it, I was like, oh, under the stairs. And that one of the houses I grew up in, the under the stairs kind of closet space, storage space was just kind of a play kind of cave for me and my little sister. And I was like, oh, that's where I have to go. And you had said that you left something for yourself there. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll go figure that out. We all dispersed, and I went to a friend's house, a colleague's house who does acupuncture, and I was going to get acupuncture that day right after our session. So I laid with acupuncture in my system and my body, and I was like laying there, and I was like, well, I'm just laying here now. I might as well journey into whatever this under the stairs thing is. And so I, in my mind's eye, take a little trip, journey through the quantum fabric of time, back in time into and pop myself underneath the stairs of this house. And I'm looking around for a little trinket or something. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what I forgot out here that I need to remember. And I'm moving through to the back of the stairs. And this, I'm me in my current body, like my whatever, like as an adult, not a child. And I see this vortex, and that's what it was. Like I left a vortex at the back of the stairs. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And And as I was watching this, and I was like, got distracted. Instead of going through the vortex, I kind of got my awareness went to the top of the stairs. And I realized now that, stay tuned, I'm going ahead of myself, but the top of the stairs, I'm distracted. Here's a vortex. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to pop up on the top of the stairs because I'm curious about something. I'm curious that because on that stairs, when I used to run down the stairs, I used to always feel like some sort of spirit on the stair. And I used to always like make my heart race. And I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. And I would like run down the stairs so fast and my heart be racing. And I felt it. My little sister felt it. And I was like, oh, I'm an adult now down here. I'm not afraid of spirits and ghosts. I'm going to pop up at the top of the stairs and just to see who this was.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh yeah, Vortex, I'll get you later. And I pop up at the top of the stairs and I stand right in the place that the spirit, what I thought the spirit was. And I'm standing there, like just literally standing on the stair, waiting for the spirit to show up so I can see who was visiting. And in the meantime, I look over and I'm just watching the stairs and I see myself at that age when I was afraid of the stairs running past me like 100 times. And I could see that every time she ran past me, she was like afraid of the thing that was standing on the stairs, which was me.
Wild. So she could see in the future and you were seeing in the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was
Quote,
all so that basically I was already in this session somewhere in the future, already reflecting, hey, what did I leave underneath the stairs? Put myself on top of the stairs, but in the past, this little girl's running down the stairs, being afraid of the spirit, which is her future self, and I'm seeing my past self being afraid of me. And it was the spirit was me the entire time.
Yeah.
And so I have very clear memories of like me running past this, being a little girl on these stairs, afraid of the spirit. And now when I think back the entire time, that was me the whole time. I was like feeling my future self. And then I was just recently thinking about that again. I was like, oh, wait, I forgot to go back underneath the stairs to understand the portal. And of course, it was a time portal.
Oh, shit.
I put a time portal down there.
Do you know, I'm just going to go further. Why did the little girl, yourself, put a time portal in there so you could come back? What did she not want you to forget?
That time, I don't know.
Or is it just about time, or was it something else? Do you know what I mean?
My brain wants to be like, oh yeah, she wants to remind you that time doesn't exist and you can travel at all times. But I also know that there's a part of my development and my soul level in this lifetime, maybe not in this lifetime, but I'm starting to learn and really kind of start to activate myself for the potential at some point to like actually travel my physical form off this planet and move around the galaxy. Maybe not in Pam's body, but a body.
Yeah, it's also the other way around. She went into your future to prepare some stuff. It's the other way. Instead of like reminding you to come back like to her because she needed to tell you something, she actually did more to go into your future to lay groundwork, foundations.
And I've always tuned into this too. And I'm like, if I was in the future plus in the past, all these different things, how many times do I feel like a little spirit come through my system? Like, okay, I'll back up a minute. So sometimes when I do sessions and we're working on something that's sticky in somebody's life, we'll use like the quantum time to like go back into that time portal,
that past
and,
life,
and or a past even moment in your this life, and kind of rewrite what happened.
Yeah,
it feels like maybe a birth story or whatever, right? And then so we're entering back into that portal of time. Maybe say a birth story that was a little bit sticky or stressful. We'll go back, quote unquote, in time. In our session, so we are now entering our consciousness into this time and place, and then we're like the spirits now in that room, adjusting something. So how many times do I even notice little energies shift and change my field all the time? And I'm just curious about who is the spirit that came through? Who's this guy that came through that comes even like now? And I think about, oh, was that just me? And from the future that came to adjust something that I just did that wasn't going to be in alignment for me. So the future me just came in here and did a little tweak healing, and now I'm going to be on flow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if I'm going into the past with clients, then my future self is coming right here into my what present I'm in right now to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that sometimes too. I was going to say the same thing when I work with clients and we're popping around in timelines, we're experiencing quantum time all the time with that. So even I think people just understanding, listening, when you have a thought or you have an idea about a past life you've experienced, know in that very moment you're experiencing quantum time, a small portion of it or a large portion, whatever you allow in. It's
Yeah.
that easy. It's a thought.
Have you watched Interstellar?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
What you said, it's
I did, but I can't
this
really
scene where
remember
he interacts and he tries to warn his past self to not go.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
And he moves the tree and the clock, and when you were saying it, I was thinking about that.
It's Interstellar, and it's legit. Like that's what that moment was. Or like Harry Potter when Hermione has the time necklace and she goes back in time, and then Harry Potter had to save himself with the Patronus, and he thought it was his dad, and then he's waiting for his dad in the present time. He's like, "Where's my dad? He's got to send the thing," and he's like, "Wait, it's me." He's got to send. You know what I mean? Like it's always you. It's always you.
What's yours? If you're done,
I'll
to
have
get
more
you up
later.
there, but-
Yeah, Pam is pumped.
Pam, anything else, Pam? You're on a roll,
No.
girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't want to stop a flow.
I don't either.
I'm just digesting this, man. This is big stuff.
It is.
And that's what I
Yeah.
mean. It takes you a while to contemplate and like kind of like Play-Doh. I'm just gonna feel this for a minute before I actually sculpt something with it, or what does it want to become? Because it's one thing to know spiritual information and go, yeah, I identify with that. And that's a whole other thing to begin to have your experiences with it. And the experiences and the experiential part of it is always what's going to solidify and heal or grow the oneself. So I always wait for, even for myself, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And then I know eventually in some down the pipeline when it's the right time, I'll have an experience about it, right? So you kind of got to have like an in-depth look at your quantum
Time portal. And it was interesting because you could be like, "Oh, did I just make that up in my head?" But like the response my cells had,
That's what I mean, yeah.
it's not just, it's literally your entire body's vibrating in truth. Like it's not just like, "Oh, that was an interesting daydream." Like it's I was very like
energetic.
so energetic. Every single cell in my body was vibrating in a capacity that it's not not your common state, not your regular state of vibration.
And that's what I mean when you
Yeah.
have the experience.
Yeah.
The experiential part is the increase of like literally cellular vibration of,
Yeah.
ooh, she's got the memory, you know, or she's like got the information, like an activation or a DNA
A
observation.
massive confirmation.
Yeah. Anyways,
Mare.
I'm
what you
curious,
got?
Mare.
Yeah, I've just been reflecting because these like terms and concepts are like sometimes new to me, and I love listening and learning from you both in that one. And so I'm just kind of like tuning into how that is applied in my life and how that showed up. And it's really what the story that's coming through is how much peace and how much calm I get from knowing that happens. And so when I think about tuning into different energies that I am, they're all kind of working for the same thing. So one of my big goals, purposes in life is to like build a lot of things. I have a lot of dreams around building different systems, building literal spaces, building new ways of thinking, new ways of being, new ways of interacting. And I remember one time, and I don't even remember who said it, but it was in something, and they said, would you be okay if you never fulfilled this dream in this lifetime? Right. And dreams, I'm a Pisces, dreams are big. Like I spend a lot of time in the non-formed, and it like hit me really hard to see that, like, what if all of these things that I've been like striving and working for and like trying to bring into fruition, and very human trying, like, what if those never came true? Would I still be okay? Right. And in that moment, I realized that I could take as many lifetimes as I wanted to do this, and that whatever I was called to in this moment and in this lifetime was that step that was needed. And in that, I felt all versions of myself expand out. And so I can feel tuning into many times where I'll be struggling with a concept and I'll be like, right, I already dealt with that. And I'll feel a person, like, usually it has to do with death.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise that I'm holding the archetype of death here, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I've already died that way. I don't need to worry about that, you know, or someone else says like, what different version of me is already taking care of that. Or, and I can feel that healing and that knowledge and that wisdom float. And same thing if I'm really stuck in a moment right now where something feels really hard, I can feel my future self, and I'm putting that in quotations because time doesn't really exist, but some part of me that knows what I need in this moment now to allow that continual energy flow to be able to continue to create. And then it really allows you to focus in on the now, and in here, now being all relative, but being okay with who you are in this lifetime, knowing that that is like of utmost importance. And so I find that it's like kind of a really interesting concept in that it can be so abstract, and yet for me it feels so grounded. And so that's a really interesting thing to experience no time as a very grounded sensation for me, and in my body, and a grounded knowing. And I'm one story, just to make it like a human example, is I remember meeting a person and knowing that I knew them from a quote unquote past life, and they were like maybe one of like the loves of my life, of that lifetime. And I remember being like, why am I not with this soulmate now? Like, they have a different life, they have a family, like this isn't working out. How's that going to be? Why would you tell me this? Why would you let me feel this knowing of this deep connection if it's something that I can't act out in this lifetime? And then in a session, I went into like meditation. I think it was a session with you, Pam. And I felt myself connect into a parallel reality. And in that parallel reality, I saw me, and I was with this person, and there was a family, and there was all the things, and it was literally through like a glass window. And I walked up to the window, and the other version of me looked exactly the same, walked up, and we put both our hands on the other side of the glass. And this was a very real experience for me. And I just said, like, how are you doing? Like, your life? She's like, it's amazing, but what you're doing is really important. And living out this different story and living out this different lifetime is like, I'm so in love with what you're doing. And I said, I'm so in love with what you're doing. And it was just this beautiful healing. And I had so much peace after that, knowing that somewhere in some dimension, in some parallel reality, that this part of me was like, I wasn't making it up. Do you know what I mean?
With this person.
I was with this person.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, I didn't need to gaslight myself into being like, why am I? And
Not
there was so
enough,
much
yeah.
peace after that. And I was able to let go and shed that whole story in this lifetime. And it's freed me up for a whole bunch of other things that I think need to happen. And so in that, I feel this like support, and I feel this knowing, and I can feel this, it feels like love. And we had talked about this calling, like this
The
love,
self-love.
a self-love. It feels like the self-love of all of the versions supporting me through like really challenging concepts that exist here, like loneliness and, you know, contemplating maybe not having like children of my own, and these sort of things that can be important to this human lessen in their intensity. And I find freedom in that. And so I think it's really interesting because time can really be played with in that sense of like, you have free time, right? That's freedom to create, or it can be so constricting, we have no time. And so in that, I think all things can be explored. And so I really, really love that.
I love that so much because, you know, we spoke about like before we started this episode, it was like, oh, like self-love in the aspect of these parallel lives. Because it's like when we can love ourselves so deeply in all expressions of ourselves, we're like, man, I'm so happy that this other version of me gets to live out this fantasy that I've had for myself, or this desire of that I had for myself. And I'm because I love myself so much, I love her so much. I'm so happy that that version of me gets to experience that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay doing what I'm doing because it's got a grand purpose. And what's really neat about that is not separate in the sense that you can feel so satiated too with her life in that love, because we're not
You're not experiencing it separately.
we're not separate, and we're communicating constantly with our parallel selves through our electrons. So electrons are this really beautiful part of our bodies. We've got, I don't know how many electrons we have in our system. I
Are
can't
they
even
in our
imagine.
cells?
Billions.
Just question.
They're
Billions.
just like the positive cations and ions that
Okay.
that circulate
Yep.
around all
of
matter
Right.
that allow them to attract each
Okay.
other. Positive and negative is the duality we have here. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
then so these electrons can move in all these crazy directions. Like, and when he with the electron field, and then basically what they're showing now is that it's through the energy of these kind of like, they're like bridging, like they bridge from like this place with of matter into wave, and they can move through these places of all your parallel selves, and it's your electrons that speak, that share information and consciousness between your parallel selves and your higher self and your oversoul and all these different things. And so it's so cool, because if you go, okay, if I can tune into my electrons, and I can tune into the fact that they are the interface between this consciousness that I'm in this body and the consciousness of my parallel self in that body over there or in that life, and I want to get a taste of that life, and I really want to get some wisdom from that life, or some pleasure from that life, or some wisdom, all these different things, I can. It's not separate. I can actually reach and download that and receive that consciousness through this electron passing, and I can be completely ingrained in that consciousness of that parallel life, into the point where I don't need to repeat those lessons or those gifts or read that book, because the wisdom is already in my system. I can share the information through my electrons. And then you end up going, whoa, in the grand scheme of all things, and the fact that the electrons are shared completely through my parallel selves and myself, that it's literally all me. And I can then if I go into a deep practice of this, travel my consciousness very, very consciously, versus subconsciously, into all these parallel lives and be there just as much as I am here, and then come back here. It doesn't actually have to be separate experience at all.
Do you find?
You can bust that glass. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I was going to say, do you find when you do that certain desires or goals and everything changes then, like in this frequency? Because it's like, we a lot of the times we base our goals and what we want to do that day or whatever on perhaps something that is missing or that we haven't completed. There's that ego drive. And so when the electrons are really merging and we give that, what I'm also hearing is permission, I'm getting a sense that there might be more satiation. Is that the right? More
get it.
Yeah, you might be more satiated to the point where, like, a lot of what you choose to do could be completely different,
I think so.
right?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Because you can really visit that emotion or that energy through your electrons and go, oh, yeah, I got a taste of that too.
The why would change for
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Which is like what you were saying to Meredith. Is
Yeah.
like you got that, you were able to be like satiated. I can't say that word.
Satiated.
Just satisfied. Yeah.
Satisfied. I don't know why, but that
Just
word,
keep it simple.
But that word wants to kind of come through. For
There's
some
nothing, because
reason.
it feels like it's very thirst quenching. Like
Yeah.
that would be appeasing. Then satisfied just feels like,
Satisfied.
nah, I
It's
guess
not
so. I
quite the
could.
right
I
word.
guess I could. But satiated's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
I
can
don't
drink
yearn.
that.
I don't yearn for
There's
more.
some sort of completion. with
Yeah, like you're
satiation.
drinking in those electrons of that life, going, oh, thanks for the sip. That was really great.
Yep.
So funny because like electrons too are just like they're just the parts that allow matter to exist, right? They create the
Yeah.
positive and negative that allow for bonding. That is the base of all matter.
Yeah.
And so depending on what state is like a different density, like literally like solid, like gas, like liquid are your basics, right? And so a lot of time I think of consciousness as more of like gas related, so element of air, and it's the most free in that sense. So it's even just this whole conversation has an energy of liberation, right? And freedom in the sense of traveling through these different
Yeah.
aspects of self and bringing in all these different aspects of self, collapsing them into the moment, into now, that allows this to be whoever we are in these vessels and in this iteration, reincarnation, whatever, are the most powerful, really, because you're the most present then in it, right?
Yeah, and it's so cool with that electron bonds too, because when the when the valence shell, the electrons are bonded, then we're putting our atoms really, really close together, so we look solid, right? And that's what the potential of a human is meant to be. At a certain time, we'll get there in activations that we can separate those bonds, so these atoms are separated, and you could completely dissolve your form, and then you can reform these electron bonds in a different place in the galaxy and go to a different star system and regather your electron bonds there. And then dissolve the bond, or like let go of the bonds and the connections, and then redissolve somewhere else. So it's just basically electrons bonding or not bonding. And it's like the consciousness is what bonds it. So we think, oh, am I going to, if I was to deeply go into that practice, would I cease to exist? Could I put myself back together again? All this kind of potential idea of like,
Would I get stuck
Would I get
somewhere?
stuck somewhere? But
Yeah.
it's your consciousness that arranges all of it.
I like that description of it because it offers like some element of scientific explanation or how the science meets that consciousness piece. So I think that's going to help a lot of people just to kind of go, what does that even look like? And the fear of being lost then after all of that, or trapped or something
Right, because
like that.
if we're afraid of being lost, and we think that the matter is controlling the organization versus the consciousness is actually what's organizing the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. And speaking a little bit of self-love in this piece too, they're saying that to be able to really activate that potential in ourselves, that stargate of being able to dissolve yourself and reappear somewhere else in a different star system if you wanted, or maybe a different point of the earth. I would love that. If I had a superpower, I would love to like translocate. Like I'd be like, I want to go to Thailand for some pad thai right now and just go get some.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I want to do. And so this is my motivation
Maybe you
of
could, though.
mastering the skill, because I really want to
feel
just go.
satiated.
I want to go eat a bunch of things all over the world, and I want to do this. This is my motivation. And the potential of that is meant to come through the heart field. So that they say the deeper you kind of fall into self-love, the more activated this stargate of your heart becomes, and the possibility of this is more tangible.
Now all I'm thinking about, sorry, I kind of
Thailand and food. Yes.
No, I'm thinking about going to Italy. I want
know,
some
a
pizza,
pizza.
some gelato,
Yeah,
some
I know.
pasta. Like,
It's a good superpower.
Fuck the pad thai. I want some Italian. Sorry, guys. Now I'm like, oh yeah, or like,
Right? Isn't it a good one?
espresso.
I literally just want to go and
Yeah, but then like, isn't that what we're just talking about? That if we just went there and you could, your electrons could converse with the food, wouldn't you feel satiated?
100%.
You're right.
I can't wait.
So maybe I just got to go to do that tonight.
I know. I want to go and just have a good
Spring roll.
spring roll. Yeah. What you think?
I've got a real energy here, interesting energy that I'd love for you guys to observe. So
Yeah.
it's lost in space. So as we talked about that, there's this energies of many things that are stuck and lost.
Oh, interesting. So there is stuck in
Yeah.
law. I mean, okay, fine.
There isn't, but there is. It's like this. It's just like this idea of like they're asking for like a healing to come through, or a reconnection, or like sometimes the confusion can cause chaos, right? And it is and it isn't chaos, but there's something that's being asked to be spoken to. I wonder even right now if it's like the confusion in our consciousness that we could be lost.
Right.
Right. And so if we know that we can't be lost, can we invite back the knowing that it just is asking for some comfort? And actually, Robin, you've got a story here that keeps popping through of like a part of you that is like, I don't want to put you on the spot, but there's an energy that's drawing me there too of, it's like if you actually knew that you could never be lost, where would you go? And how would you come home? Which sounds like a little riddle, but it's actually not. There's like there's an invitation of this in this conversation, in this knowing, to invite back in these parts of ourselves that are perceived to be lost or that we think are lost. So, and it's asking to like tune into your body. For me, it's like around my heart field on like the below on the left side, like under my rib, right by the apex of the heart. Maybe that's part of where a heart gate is, right?
So what if it's not lost? What if it's just not completed? That's what it
what
feels
is not
like more.
complete?
So I look at this like aspect of whatever, again, if we're in a collapsible timeline, but just for the sake of the podcast, just saying like a past life or past life off Earth that happens, I'm looking at aspects of, and I don't know if this is totally what you're trying to talk about, but maybe not, but like aspects of karma that aren't completed. And so it gives that frequency of that consciousness of lost. So I think when there's a frequency or consciousness of lost because there's karma that wasn't solved, when we're in, say, this quote unquote current present like field or quantum, or when we stay in this field, we're going to feel a sense of something is lost in consciousness. And there could be more fear to fragment ourselves even more because it's already quite fragmented because there's parts everywhere. If the karma isn't completed and hasn't come back to the present or to the electron that's calling it back.
So I
Do you know
guess
what
the
I'm
question
saying?
more
I'm
is-
like, it's funny, the word karma has a charge that I'm like
Doesn't feel
responding
good?
to in a negative way. And so maybe that's where the healing is being asked for. Like, it's this idea of attachment into karma, like how you're saying it and how it's like feeling is that there's like a shame or guilt or like an attachment currently that we have around if there's karma, there's been some sort of story that like a wrongdoing.
No, I don't say it has to be
And
wrong
I know you don't mean it like that,
Yeah.
but that's how it's like,
in being interpreted.
maybe that's the piece
Yeah.
that's being
Can we
asked
get-
to be worked on today.
And for whatever energies are coming in, can we clarify the lost is because of something that was fragmented, or is the feeling lost like they were using their free will, or it was whatever the spirit is, to separate their electrons and come back into form on their own free will, and they just didn't arrive properly.
Yeah, it's like a remembering of consciousness and inviting that consciousness to come back in the knowing. And there's like, it's it's almost like going too far into the forgetting. Do you know what I mean? That you go, you kind of forget. And this is a story that's coming through. We can attach it because
Yeah.
I feel like everything that you said, Dee, is like accurate, but
feels different.
feels different.
Yeah.
There's something asking to come through. And so, I guess that's that again, like if you know you did nothing wrong, right? If you knew there was nothing to fix, if you knew that, like this idea that it doesn't exist, like it's all just part of this beautiful, like consciousness, and you can't forget who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like releasing this part that's making you feel stuck, is what I'm seeing.
Man, I just want to share. See if this goes with the story or not, because I just keep thinking of a story for
They keep
myself.
telling me to project it out in front of you so you guys can read it. Like maybe even
Well,
you.
the only thing I keep seeing right now is a story of myself that when I was in one of my parallel lives is in the Galactic Wars at Orion's
maybe
belt.
that's the tie-in with Robin.
And I was just tuned in recently to this story, and I've known for some time that I got really blasted in that war. Like there was some sort of technology that didn't just kill my body, it like fragmented my soul into like 1,000 fragments, and it got scattered around the galaxy. And I've spent then like another 1,000 lives collecting the soul fragments to bring back into my system, which is like a completion happening in this lifetime. And in the completion of this, I've also since said, like, had gratitude for it versus like, why did that happen? How come I, when I tuned into that blow, that laser that hit me, I accidentally deked into it instead of using my instincts to deke away from it. So I was curious, I'm like, where was my instincts? I got it wrong. And I would realize because I was actually in the war half-hearted. I didn't want to be there because I actually had a family to go to. And so then I was slow in my instincts and went the wrong way. And then I got super blasted, and I've been spending many, like I hear 1,000 lifetimes collecting these pieces back, and I was collecting them before I could go back to this family. In the end of it all, do I regret being blasted? No, because the journey of finding myself has been so amazing, and so much wisdom has come through it that it's been okay. So I'm curious about the energies that are asking, are they on the same type of kind of journey? So they think they're lost, but they're not, it's actually not lost. Yeah.
It's curious that you as life reflected that, because that's arguably what life's all about, right? Is just being where you are, right? And loving and knowing where you are is exactly where you're meant to be. Is an invitation back to like the idea of like, it's not about that end goal, that end journey, that like return to one consciousness. It's about that's the good stuff, right? The good stuff is like the now, the going through it. I've said now at least 1,000 times. So apparently it's really important, but, yeah, more along that.
And it's like in that desperation, because in the journey of finding all the soul fragments, I wasn't thinking of the now. I was thinking, I just want to get all these pieces back so I can go back to this family.
Like hurry up and do this.
Hurry up and do it.
Yeah,
and I'm
even
all
in
and
the idea
I'm
of
all
time.
lost, and I have to go all over the place to find myself, and this is exhausting, and I just don't want to be doing this.
I think that ties into what Dee was saying about
Yeah.
karma too,
Yeah.
right? Like, look
Yeah.
what I did. This kind of punitive
Yeah.
idea that like I did this, so
I did
can't.
this.
When you're like, actually, that's not what karma is.
No. And it's
And
all
I think
been
that's
a
more
lesson
along the
whole
frequency
time.
you were talking with it, Dee.
Yeah, and way before when you first brought up all of this, what I saw in you specifically was an earthly lifetime. Feels like very much maybe close to something in Atlantis time. And it's like you were so curious.
Sounds like me.
And you're like, ooh, I'm going to just project up there, or I'm going to go here. Or you were playing with time quite a bit. And it's kind of that piece, too, of like, how far do I go before I've almost forgotten or it forgets itself? So I did see you, feels male. You were a male in an innocent time playing with it. And it does feel like you went more into the galactic energy of things, but it's very innocent. It wasn't like stemming from, so that can also feel like karma, even though it was innocent. I will just say that word, but
keep saying it.
with
It's
a
just-
charge.
Yeah.
That there's in your innocence of exploration, you were you know, there's this like, not all who wander are lost. So you were up there in your innocence, but then it's also like, it also feels like, ooh, I might like this more to stay there too. So there was this like piece, but it feels a little bit like I could see you. There has a magic component. I keep hearing that, and I keep seeing that you were playing around with magic aspects too, but you were very curious. So it was very innocent in the beginning when you went up there. And I think there was like maybe parts where like Pam, who had something really aggressive fragment her, it could have fragmented you that way, but it was done very innocently. And in the curiosity of it. And so maybe that's where you're also kind of, how do we bridge over safety with curiosity? Maybe in that, I don't know, but I saw some of that too originally.
Yeah, I just feel joy coming through when you're saying that, because
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, curiosity is the mother of all invention.
Yeah.
Right? And I love
You
to
were-
break a system.
And they sort of, they show me this imagery, and you were a young boy when you did it, with this imagery of like, if somebody was out looking in a telescope up at the sky, you're like, oh yeah, I can be there. And the curiosity, but the power and sort of the magic that you knew, because there was accessibility still. And then it feels like, ooh, could I go and play some fragments up there? Could I leave? And so maybe there's this piece for you that feels forgotten of the fragments you did place up there.
Every time they always make me go up, back up, don't they?
Because there's maybe parts where you placed
Yeah.
self,
And you
right?
just haven't
So
yeah.
maybe those are those they're lost, but they're not lost because of something negative. They're not lost, but it's like, it's sort of like with your time travel story with the little girl. It's like, ooh, I time traveled, or I'm going to leave fragments or pieces of me so that I can support myself in a certain lifetime to go up and get it.
Do you think
Because
that
there
those
might be a
fragments are
gift, a
just like those like electrons that you're talking about? That's just coming through now that we place all along the way to just like
Yeah.
find each other and expand into.
Right,
And that's
so
just like
little
this
breadcrumbs.
life, you know, like of
Yeah.
like we just literally just expand into ourselves every
and if-
time, which is like unity consciousness.
And if you
So
think
cool.
about
which
like
is
the
really
time travel of like, oh, look, there I am happily doing this life. And they're like, what you're doing right now is really important. Well, which fragment do you need to make it complete so that you can go there? Right? So to me, maybe that's why you're like, it wasn't negative. I explored and I purposely chose to left some fragments.
And maybe those fragments are
I
so.
feel
like,
at least there's like 3 big ones.
Right. And sometimes when I've tuned into some of my fragments as I've been gathering them, some of them are like mad at me. They're like, you forgot about me. I've been lost underground.
You're like, I'm
for
putting anger up there.
ages." Like that's I literally like the one that turned into Camilla, like that
Yeah.
whole fragment. She was like, before she turned into Camilla, before she got sucked into the underworld fully, she was in a cave waiting to be like received and like, hello, I've been down here forever, can you come get me? And then, oh my gosh, she's forgotten, she hasn't got me yet, she just doesn't know that I'm down here. And I'm like, I'll get there when I get there. And in the meantime, she was so separated away from like me, like from the source of her, that she just let herself fall into insanity because she was so separated from her own light that she became Camilla.
And for those of you who are listening who have completely lost the plot,
I know.
it's totally fine.
Yeah.
This is like quantum healing, right? And
And
quantum
time
stories.
traveling
And
stories.
quantum time, yeah.
Well, so mine, I'm just placing mine together in this type of context because I've been time jumping to Mintaka and my star origin. And it feels like just now I'm calling in the fragment because I had to heal some of that, right? So, working and seeing Kraken for years, the octopus of Kraken, and ignoring him for years too. And he tried everything to get my attention.
It's a spirit guide
But it could be my electron, my
Deanne
fucking
works
fragment,
with.
people.
Literally, it could be your
Duh.
electrons just hanging around, going,
Just
where
hanging
do I,
around,
let me
and
bond
so
back to
let
you.
me bond. And it's
Yeah.
like just been as I've regained trust there with that fragment and worked through its lesson for me, that fragment, and it's been like months and months and months. It's like, oh, you're finally showing a merge of this fragment finally into the system. And so that's like this beauty for you that I know with some of Meredith's history is she's our earth gal. Like she's so earth. And nah, I don't think I'm up in this. I think I've done the starseed thing. I think I'm not, it's not my life. Remember, is that okay that I'm sharing that?
Of course, yeah.
And so perhaps this is the electron reaching out the arm to you
Yeah.
of the curious and using curiosity from the boy who placed it there out of curiosity for you to go meet it with curiosity and innocence.
I love
Absolutely.
it.
It's really beautiful. And I think I just want to say again for anybody listening, if you have lost the plot or you wonder what's going on, I think my biggest, because it feels really good in my body. And so to tune into what part are you actually hearing with it? There's the rational head that might be like, what the heck? And by rational, I just mean like the conditioned brain and our conditioned mind, based upon like the system and the society and our lived experience in this human life. But if you tune into that heart that we're talking about, if you tune into how you actually feel, do you feel curious about it? Do you be like, do I have stories? What is going on? Like, that's like when you start to follow intuition, and that's when you start getting into like this quantum healing and consciousness that is so fascinating. And it does translate to your real life, I promise. When I was driving here, we were talking about in a training earlier today, like values and core values. And sometimes core values is just like shadow work, but in this case, mine was magic is real. And so I base a lot of my stuff and my dreams upon like magic is real. And so it's really beautiful that you reflected that and that you were saying you're
so
working with
magical.
magic. Yeah.
It's just
And then
magic.
when I feel that, when you say that and I feel that energy around me, all of these like wild, crazy dreams that I have become possible, and not in like a detached, disassociated way, but it makes me feel motivated. It makes me want to get up. It makes me want to go out and work more with my community and work more with this earth and do more as Meredith. And so I think
It's a vibrational
there's deep
increase.
value in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily checking out of this life at all. In fact, it's like
Checking in.
Strengthening.
concentrating it more.
Well, and what I love that you just shared as we were starting to wrap this up is that, like, you're actually having the experiential part right now in the cells remembering, even though the mind's like, what's happening? Like,
Yeah, the fuck.
Yeah.
but it places a story. You know, the soul speaks in metaphors, spirit speaks in metaphors. So it places a nice metaphoric story or a story for you that goes, ooh, that's safe for me to access.
Yeah.
That going up there, you know, doesn't mean like I've done something wrong here that I have to escape to go there. It's like a curiosity part of my system that I place there as a breadcrumb.
It just
You
makes
know?
me think of the visual of the universe is always constantly expanding, you know, and so as we are part of this universe and whatever this thing is, we too are also always expanding, right? And sometimes it takes a big bang and
My
you
own
collect
big
those
bang.
pieces.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes it's painful trauma
Absolutely. Yeah.
that allows you to collect the pieces. It's
Yeah.
all sorts. And so I think it's important also when people are listening to this, that when we surface the big thing or the sweet and innocent or this, that there's integration
Yeah.
to collect that fragment or that electron fully back or to work with it, right? And it in no means you have to force it. And it would be like a continuation of watching her story in her mind's eye at night. Where am I now with this?
Yeah.
Am I meeting that electron now up in the sky? Where is it? It's like you let it unfold. Maybe it's day by day, maybe it's month by month or whatever. And then you suddenly realize like, oh, I'm starting to feel like an octopus today.
That's your electrons actually going into
I know.
shared consciousness.
Yeah. It's like I like stand there. Well, in my mind's eye when I'm working with a client, I'm like, ooh, look at all of my hands. Like I'm like, this one can do this. This one can do this. This one, and it's what's really been cool. Just quickly share, is that I'm starting to like manifest with the multiple tentacles, because I know one tentacle can hold a different consciousness that this other one can't or can. So it's like this multifaceted. Like
Cool.
it's really cool.
No wonder you're an MG. It makes sense.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. That's a whole other story.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're still with us.
Yep.
Yeah. If not, then
That's okay too.
it's okay.
If
Wherever
you
you
need
are.
to stop to
follow-
Google the
follow
shit,
at heart.
that's okay
Yeah.
too. But we love, let's just say too, like we love follow-up questions to our
Yeah, comment
episodes.
some questions.
Email us, find us on all our socials, our website, threefatespodcast.com. And we also just, we love to hear reviews. We've gotten a lot of reviews that people we know of, some people we don't know. But go ahead and give us a review or rate us. You know, how does it work? Like
questions,
give us a 5-star. Only if you feel it. My consciousness won't let me say do it. It's like only if you want, okay? But
cute.
yeah, we would love to have more interaction with everybody. And anything else you guys want to add to that?
No,
No?
Just
just sending it up.
Just what?
You know, the thing.
Oh, yeah. She gave me the code word. Sorry. Trust yourself.
Be yourself.
and love yourself.
Yeah. Just the.
I was like, wrap it up.